Thanks very much for joining us today. How have you been, brother?
Good. How are you, Dale?
Doing okay. It's probably been about a half a year or so since we last talked. How things been going?
Oh man, they've been going great. It was dude, what a transition, but yeah, things are going really well.
Okay, last time I talked to you, I met you, I think through Rob Booker, and you told me your story that eventually you just, after searching and searching and searching, you just became self-taught. You came up with your own methodology. People can follow you at FX underline operator, Shonn Campbell. So maybe for the people that weren't here last time, Shonn, you could kind of give background on how you evolved into what you do today.
Yeah, no problem. So I started trading probably 6 years ago, I think. I kind of lose track of time, but I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago. Started in stocks. I think where everybody starts. I had this idea that working a regular job wasn't enough to get me to where I wanted to be in life, and I read a couple of books, and I was like, well, hey, you know what? Let's go start trading. And it was a long journey. It was, I got out of stocks pretty quickly. I didn't like how that whole thing operated, and I found forex, and I've been stuck on forex for 3 or 4 years now, and yeah, I found Rob Booker. He was instrumental in helping me along in my journey. But overall, it's just, look, man, trading's just it's an endurance run, right? It's not a sprint. It's can you last over the long term and learn the lessons you need to learn and make it to these spots. So, um, you know, it's it's been a great ride. It's been the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's been a lot of fun and challenging, and I love it. So
Perhaps you could share your screen with us, and we could talk a little bit about things that you look at and how you're seeing the markets. You just go to the green box in the upper left-hand corner with the arrow, and then you
all
can
right.
begin.
So do you want to see currency charts? What do you want to see today,
Yeah,
Dale?
I want to see what you look at.
Okay, perfect. Let me pull
We,
over.
not I, we.
Sorry. All right, let me just pull.
sometimes sometimes I forget it's we. Ever hear of someone? Yeah, you ever hear of someone who has an eye disease? You ever heard that expression before?
That's right.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with their vision. It's just that everything is, I did this, and I was right, and I want that, and I.
Is
So
isn't that true,
um,
man? Isn't that true?
sometimes I sometimes I forget it's really we. So
Yes, sir.
what you're trading some? You're looking at the peso up there. I see. Oh, you want to
Yeah,
start with the euro? Okay,
yeah. I'll
go ahead.
start with the euro. I was going to go through a trade that we worked on in the room for a little while. So what I do is unbelievably simple. Okay, my journey has gone from overly complicated to as simple as I can possibly get. I love to just see price action, and then I said this the last time I was here, I just use indicators as the lens to which I see price action through. I don't use the indicators as the trading signals. They just give me the context.
They're
So
not
I use,
they're not triggers.
no, they're not triggers for me at all.
Yeah,
They show me areas of price that I want to deal with, if that makes sense.
I got it.
So
I
in
do the
this
same.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So in this view right here, this is all I ever look at. I have three EMAs on here. They used to be simples, but I changed them to EMAs just because I like it a little bit better. I got a 200, a 100, and a 34, just like I always have. That's never changed. And then a stochastic at 833. And all I do is look for stacks on the EMAs. So this is a stack down on a 4-hour chart on the euro, and I do two things. Okay, I look for structure. Number one, I look for places where in that downtrend sellers came in a in a strong way and made new lows, and that high is then the structure. And then I look at stochastics and try and figure out overbought and go in and I have several different triggers that I make orders on. But this is how I look at markets, and this is all I do every day to find where I want to trade.
Okay, how did you go? How and why did you choose 34 for an EMA?
I actually was that was all Rogge Horner. I used to,
Okay.
well, first off, Matt Lococo, a good friend of mine, trades her candles exclusively, and I'd worked with him a little bit on that for a while, and I couldn't get into the candles, but the 34 was, was pretty good, and it fit into what I was doing pretty well. So,
You know what
um,
their rationale was for choosing that number? I'm
what?
just curious.
Oh no, I don't know what Rogge's rationale was.
Okay.
That's a great question. I'm sure I could ask her and find out, but
Well,
uh,
this is a great example of not even knowing why you use an indicator, but it works.
that's right. That's right. I like the moving average, and I could change it to a 20. I could probably change it to just about anything. It's just what stuck with me.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
um,
we're creatures of
it's a
habit.
short term. Okay, all it is a short term average of price versus a medium term versus a long term. That's all it is.
Mhm.
I could switch those up to anything I wanted them to be, really.
Right.
Um, but I like to be able to.
That's why I ask, because normally it's not arbitrary. There are reasons why, I mean, people look at the
Sure.
200 because everyone looks at the 200. Because they want to know, well, I mean, what are most people thinking? So
Sure.
everyone uses it. The 50, a lot of people use the 50.
Yep.
I was introduced to the 21, so I use it. I liked it because it fit with a couple of numbers of completion. 7 times 3 is 21. I was
Yep.
just curious if there was a reason for 34. So
No,
if you find out, tweet it to me.
I will. I'll do that.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I think you're right. We're just creatures of habit. You look at something for so long, and you're just like, okay, I kind of get that. That makes sense to what my eye sees. So that's probably the only reason. So we basically went in here and we were selling euro up in this area based on the stochastic and the stack down on the MAs, and we were able to ride this trade out down to 106.45. So it was a great trade that we had in the last couple of weeks. And I actually tweeted
Okay.
this out when this was here. I put this on Twitter that if this structure stays in place, that low is going to be retested, and it was obviously retested and held and continued on down. So
What are you thinking now, Sean?
um, that's a tough one. I got to go out to the dailies. Okay, these are the
Because
two levels,
you've been in this business long enough to know that you're only as good as your last trade, and that
or I'm
last
only as
trade's
good as my
come.
next call.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, your last trade is history, and now we want to know about the mystery.
That's right. That's right. So these are the two areas that I keep staring at on my charts every day, just trying to figure out what they're going to do with them, right? I guess it's not going to allow me to do that very well. So,
105.60 and
one,
480.
yeah, 105.60 and 104.80. Okay, I think that
Okay.
this move right here that just finished was to get through, any stop run or anything that would happen based on these two wicks. That's kind of how I look at things. Is where are the stops at, right? So you
Right.
got to think that if you look at the inverse of the euro, which is the DXY, it has the same setup. It's just a top instead of a bottom. And
Okay.
I just don't see how we get this close and don't run that set of liquidity, right? I just don't see how it happens. I think dollar has to push up over 100, or I'm sorry, DXY has to go up over 100 and 100.4, and I think euro has to test this low. I just don't think they
I
get away
agree
from it.
with you. And I was looking for the action that we got post-Fed minutes, but
Yep.
then when I went back, and even though it was a successful trade, I mean, yen puked, Canada puked, nice
Yep.
pop in euro, etc. When you look at the dollar index chart, we only have two drives, and it looks like we need one more to, complete one of my favorite
Exactly.
formations.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly. I'm
I'm
seeing.
glad I had you on here today because I'm flat. I'm usually flat on Fridays, and what I think and what I teach is, and what you're exemplifying right now is preparing in
Yes.
advance,
Yes.
knowing your areas that your best work is done when your platform is closed, or you're just looking at the charts and you're not in a trading mode,
That's
because
right.
then you're prepared for the price action should it. Then once you're there, you're not analyzing, you're executing. So
Exactly.
great
Exactly. And
example of preparation, Shonn.
yeah, absolutely. And so this is my DXY chart. I keep this up all the time too with the 100 and 100.4, which I believe correlate, almost exactly to the euro
Yeah,
chart
they
because
do. Yeah.
DXY is basically based on euro. So that's what I'm looking for. And I'm relatively I'm relatively I keep telling everybody that I'm not I don't necessarily want to trade this until I figure out what's happening with 100 and 100.4. I'm sort of I think it'll break it, but I don't know what it's going to do once it breaks it, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's going to be a
Yeah.
drive and then a drive
Yeah,
back
you don't
down.
know if it's going to get parabolic or reverse. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. So I'm keeping my risk low right now, just based on that. I don't know what it's going to do. I want to see what it does, and then we can make some trades from there.
Yeah, but don't worry about, taking a small loss so you can't buy me as nice of a Christmas gift as you had planned on. So,
So if I said it's in the mail, would that would
oh,
that
oh
uh,
yeah,
would that help things out?
the check's in the mail, and I wire back refunds on my free room community. So, actually, you know what's an interesting level that you have here is this 9840 level.
Yep, that was a
And
breakout I was watching.
okay, so if we made a third drive and took out 9840, that might seal it for a while. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. So you mean if we made the third drive above 100 or
Yeah, and
100.4?
then started negating the breakout at
Yes. So
9840.
that's exactly right. Let me get a little tool out here.
So,
So
another
so
great
yeah, if we
aspect
drove
of
up
the,
here and then
yeah,
drove back
yeah,
down there, absolutely. I'd be so afraid to be a dollar bull at that point.
yeah.
Um, I would be looking for active ways to short the dollar.
Now my friend from a long time ago used to say this to me, Shonn. He goes, Dale, you like to hear the ice crack. So I'm going to short it up there between par and par 40. I've been talking about par 40 for a while. I interviewed a guy, Peter Goodburn, who's a real good Elliott guy, talking par 33.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't have that 9840 level. I was more concentrated on the 97 level. Was an area that kept being turned back from 97, 97 and a half. But
Yep.
now that I see your horizontal at 9840, you could bet that's going to be a line in the sand for the bull case for me now. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's the funny part, right? Is I'm with you, man. I am that's why I'm not longing the dollar right now. I'm with you. If that breaks, I'm actively going to be trying to short the dollar when the opportunities present themselves.
Do you
I
pay
just I don't
attention
know.
to sentiment? Do you pay attention to sentiment at all, Shonn?
I
Because
I
you can't
don't.
find a dollar bear. You can't find a dollar bear anywhere on Twitter, can you? Do you see anyone
No.
talking
No.
about shorting the dollar? It's almost a universal opinion, isn't it?
Especially when it comes to the euro, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's all short euro, and I don't know. I think you get a drive below those lows on euro, you get a drive below the highs on DXY. Things get really, really interesting. And the Fed in December makes look. There's more ways that they could screw up the dollar with that meeting than there is that they could strengthen it. So I don't know.
You know what? Someone in our community, Ziggy, told me that they're having a special meeting to discuss rates the day before Thanksgiving.
Are you
Um,
serious? Oh, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. So that was news to me. I haven't heard anything about it on CNBC, but a lot of people said, and everyone knows they want to do it, but there were people saying that there were problems doing it in December because it's kind of the end of the year book squaring,
Yep.
and it could create a little chaos for year end stuff. Okay. Um, Perhaps there'd be some surprise, especially with the S&Ps pushing 20 handles under all-time highs, for them
Oh
to get
man.
it out of the way before Thanksgiving. That
Yes, I agree. And um, I can't switch over. If I could bring up the S&P chart, I'm not a stock trader at all. Something froze here. Give me
you
one
know
second.
maybe you just stop the screen share for a minute and change
Okay.
chart. You
Let me,
should be able to go over to the chart while you're. Is it
let's
your
see.
platform that's frozen?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's my give me one second.
your platform.
Yeah, I gotta do one thing. Sorry.
Go ahead. We have a lot of time, Sean. Take your time. Great to have you back, buddy.
Yeah. Oh man, it's great to be back. That pen that I use sometimes seems to mess. There we go. Okay, so S&P, right?
Yeah.
I look at this and I see the same kind of situation that I see in the dollar. Okay, I'm not an like I said, I'm not an S&P trader. Don't but look at the
No,
liquidity that's
but
going to lie.
you're seeing the correlation. There are times when a weak dollar in the say about 2 3 years ago, Sean, a weak
Yeah.
dollar meant risk on and the
Yes.
stock market going up. But as of the last 6 months or so, it's all about money flows into the U.S. dollar that's then deployed into U.S. dollar denominated assets. So
Yep.
I'm with you on it being pretty tightly correlated right now.
Absolutely. And this line to me, this I'm not sure what it is, maybe 2134, 2135 is
Yeah,
the
that's
same
the
kind of
all-time high.
yeah, it's the same kind of liquidity event for me that the dollar is, okay, at 100.4. What are they going to do with that? Is that really, this kind of action here and then buying back up and then breaking the all-time high? Man, there's no better place to trap people, right? I don't know. I'm leery of this whole thing right here. That's a crazy line.
Yeah, I mean, initially I was looking for, everyone's looking for a crash in October, and that's
Yep.
why I wasn't. But I thought we were only going to rally back to about 2050. So
Yeah.
the last month or so of this action has me a little befuddled. Maybe you're right, and we're going to get new highs here.
I don't know,
Some
but if you get new highs, I'm not sure that that's sustainable, if that makes sense. This chart to
Yeah.
me doesn't look like new highs are sustainable.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So,
So we get a dollar top again. As long as the dollar mode is bullish, equities are. But
yep,
should that shift, there could be a big shift in U.S. equities. In fact, while the dollar's been strong, the markets that have suffered the most have been the emerging markets because they're pegged to the dollar.
yep,
So it's very possible that if we get a dollar peak, that emerging markets will be the place where money flows, and our markets are overvalued considerably
yep,
over even developed markets, but especially compared to emerging markets.
yep,
So
yep,
that's something that you and I are going to be paying attention to.
yep.
How about what's happening in oil and gold? And I correlate the CAD with the oil, and there's
Absolutely.
Goldman's looking for $20 crude, and there's some people saying the gold may have bottomed. Uh, you're showing me the crude right now.
Yep, I pulled up oil. These are my
Okay,
levels on oil. I always keep these up as well. Um, this
37.
is, yep.
Okay, so 3760. What's under 3760? Nothing.
Well, nothing right now. I think
Okay.
3760. If you look back over, to the early 90s, and you see these, uh, the support here for 3760 area, and then you see how it reacted in 2009. I mean, if that breaks down, I don't think a two handle on oil is out of the question, right? I mean,
Right.
it's going to get down in this mess, and I talked a little bit about this in my group the other day too. I was like, okay, so let's say oil breaks 3760 and goes low 30s, high 20s. You know, what's going to be the demand driver that's going to make it do this again? You know, what's going to be the thing that drives oil back up? It's going to be a hard road
ISIS.
for oil.
ISIS.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, people shrug it off, but you know, if they can blow up monuments
Yeah.
in towns that they've taken over, they could also blow up oil infrastructure. And in
It's true.
southern Iraq, that's where all the oil is. So
It's true. Absolutely.
I think the only thing that's going to turn oil is going to be a geo event, and I think that there's a high probability that could happen in the next 6 months.
I agree with you 100% on that, and it would have to be something that it would have to be oil specific geopolitical event, right? I mean, if it was just an event that smacked economies, it would drive demand down, the way I
Yeah.
think of it. So it would have to
Right.
be something that was, yeah, ISIS decides that they want to run up the price of the oil they control, so they start taking out, the other producers or other supply. Then yeah, absolutely. It's a bleak picture for oil right now, though. It's going to take something like that to move the needle really, in the positive direction, in my opinion.
Okay, well, if the dollar might be close to a peak and
Yes,
oil's at major support, maybe we hold this 37 level and the rally
yes.
starts from there.
Or is the 3760 just like the 100.4 in dollar and the 23 whatever I just showed in S&P? Are all these starting to line up together where they drive them and then that's the reversal point? I don't know, but you're right.
Okay,
That's the strongest oil case is a weaker dollar, right? I
right,
mean,
yes.
to me that
Oh,
would be the thing where it's like, okay, I could see a stronger oil price case again.
okay. And so does that give you a view in Canada? Canada, into the Fed minutes, you had US dollar yen made a new high, US dollar Swiss made a new high. I think maybe the Swiss will, but I'm not sure if Canada will take out that high. Maybe Canada's telling you that, well, now that I look at that, go back one more. What was that, the
Yep,
daily?
this is the weekly chart. This is a weekly
That's the
chart.
weekly? Okay,
Yep,
so it's the only one not making the new high yet.
yep, yep,
Okay,
exactly.
so
And 30, what is
interesting.
that? 34, 30,
3480,
yeah, 30,
34,
3450.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
sorry, I'm on MT4. I should
yeah,
be on
no,
trend.
but that's a nice looking chart. So, Swiss has made a new high,
Yeah,
Euro's made a new low for the decline, and Canada hasn't. Maybe
yep.
that's a tell that crude oil is going to hold that level,
Yeah, maybe.
37.60.
And this level to me, if you can correlate them all together, would be the 104.60 in euro and 100.4 in DXY, right? I mean, this
Yeah,
is this is the place where, everything just has to break out or it has to turn around. That's,
right.
we
Well,
don't we
we're
don't
at,
stay
I
here
mean,
forever.
everything you're showing me shows an inflection point.
Yes,
Coming,
that's what I'm
coming.
seeing, Dale. That's how I'm feeling about all this right now, and that's how I tell everybody. And
Okay.
I'm like, man, I want to keep risk low because the ECB, the Fed, all of the, if they're going to have a meeting on Thanksgiving, I mean, what better time to do it than a low liquidity point in time, right?
Right. Right, they get the
So
most bang for the buck there. And they also don't have to worry about the Christmas season. That gives people in
exactly.
business plenty of time to digest it.
Exactly. So I look at this and I say, okay, I'm seeing an inflection point everywhere across the board. It has to break out and it has to hold it, or it's going to break out and reverse. And I want to be prepared to do what I see. I'm not in this game to predict what, I'm not going to place a bunch of trades to predict what's going to happen here. I'm just not going to do it. I want to see what happens, and then I want to take trades based on what I see.
Okay, so you're pretty flat right here.
I'm very flat. Yeah, I'm very flat. I'm short term stuff right now. We got out. I wanted that euro short for quite a while, and I got it. And I'm pretty happy to trade some short term stuff and just make some pips every day and not really build any positions right now.
So when you're trading short term, what TF are you working off of?
Fives and ones actually. I'll
Wow.
take yeah, I'll take this perspective, and then I'll just take it down to say a 5 minute chart and
Right.
use this exactly the same things. Okay, you get a stack
Right.
up, inside of a 4 hour buy stack of Canada, and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
buying. I'm gonna be just inventorying this stuff as it moves through.
I was thinking the other pair that sets up with everything, the whole theme that we were talking about is U.S. dollar yen could have one more push up for a third too.
Absolutely.
Let's see your look there.
I'm gonna get off of just because I shouldn't have used MT4 in the first place. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So yen, right? Yen to me always has its own story because of how much they inject into the economy, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's just a different bear. Um, Dollar yen made that new high on a
Right.
four, or
That
I'm
was
sorry,
after the Fed minutes. They cleaned out 360 stops and reversed.
exactly.
That was a classic stop hunt.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's where I just work now. Like that's all I look for is stop hunts, right? Um, so they haven't made the new highs yet. These are those same highs that you see on UCAD or
Right.
the lows on Eurodollar. It's all the same stuff.
Right.
Here's a weekly chart.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
So that last drive, just imagine that you're somebody that wants to be short dollar yen, right? You're like, dude, the Fed's not going to raise. This is all bull crap, and I want to do something. I want to be short. Well, where are you going to place your stops? You know,
Yeah.
there are going to be many stops that are building up in these areas.
That's a great
Um,
point. That's a great point. So when you look at your charts, you say to yourself, and this is something I teach, where are the stops?
yes, I look at that every day, Dale. I look at that every day. Where are the
Wow.
stops? That's the main question I ask myself.
You're like my son.
That's why we get along so well, Dale.
Yeah, just call me Pops. But
Hey,
okay, so
pops.
you actually think there's a stop hunt above 126 coming in the end?
I think if there
Or
was going to be one, that's where it would be, right?
okay,
It's the same.
yeah.
It's the same case that we. Seriously?
Because
That
here's
we
what I
just.
say. Here's what I say. Dollar's making new recovery highs as of yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
it could make another one and go to par and a half, 101. Why
Yep.
isn't the yen right now at 126?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, the drives on the yen are much smaller than the drives on the dollar or on the euro, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know why it's if anything was going to have follow through on a risk on type of scenario with stocks and
yeah.
the dollar or whatever, it'd be the dollar yen, right?
And it's not. So we
And it's
don't even
not.
have to know why. All we have to do is observe that it's not.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
that maybe there's a market message in that.
Yep. Yep.
That
But
it
I
may be a
can't see
preferred short instead of
ex-
something making a new high.
exactly. But here's my only comment on that would be I can't see this market allowing dollar yen to just drop right now with that and let everybody that's short with stops here stay in the market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
So
does make sense.
so if
But
dollar
I
yen was to just
sentiment wise, do you hear a lot from U.S. dollar yen bears? I don't.
no, I don't hear. That's a good point. I have not heard anything of U.S. dollar yen bears.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people, still talking 130, 140. Very few talking 110,
Right? That
right?
yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't hear.
don't you hear more upside objectives and downside objectives in the end?
Absolutely, absolutely, and oops. I mean that's a pretty major area right there. So I don't hear anybody short dollar yen if they're trying to get long. It's a tough place to get long.
Yeah. Well, now that I look at this, what's this? The
This
monthly?
is a yeah, monthly chart.
Okay. On a monthly, yeah, we get through 25. You're talking 130 or so.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
I,
mean,
I
this
really
is
think that the Bears are going to turn the tide, and I want to thank you for interviewing me today. That they have to turn the tide around the 124, 124.20 level, or
yeah,
else the super dollar bulls are right, and the yen's going to U.S. dollar yen's going to 130.
yep, yep. And
That's the way it looks.
that's exactly right. And I don't know which way it's going to go right now. It can go literally either way at this point in time in the next 3 weeks or whatever. I think
Yeah,
you're going to see. I think you're going to be able to recognize things at that point and say, okay, now we can make some educated guesses and let's go pound on this
right,
stuff.
right. Well, I tell you what, Shonn, it was so refreshing, and you gave me some areas I wasn't thinking about. So, my selfish motive is that you're part of my intelligence gathering. I follow your tweets, and it was great to have you here near an inflection point. It kind of reinforces my thinking. You talked about that you have a crew and you have a room, and
Yeah.
you teach. So, this is your time now to talk about what you do and how you do it, and if people want to get involved with you, the best way for them to go ahead and do it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Dale. So I run a website called FX Inventory Trading, and I wrote a book about it, and it's exactly what I'm showing you on the charts right here. I don't do anything different. This is what I do, and the last time I was on, I wasn't doing any of this stuff, and I don't know. I wanted to bring my experience, right? I started out with zero knowledge. I started out with some of the worst trading habits in the world, and through learning discipline and through learning, um,
How
you know,
much did that cost you, your learning curve?
well, how do you really put a dollar amount on a Dale?
Okay, well, I mean, look, I blew up a few accounts in my
Oh,
career.
I blew them up, man.
So,
I
so
don't
I
know. It's in the thousands somewhere. I
okay.
try not to look
And
backwards.
that wasn't really the biggest cost. The biggest cost is what it does to you emotionally and
Exactly.
physically, being put through the ringer,
Oh man, yeah, and I used
right?
to. Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad, and I used to say I was like, the worst part of trading was that I always brought my worst self and puked it up on the screen whenever those charts were up, and and, and it was true. It always brought out the absolute worst in me, and so look, while I love trading, it's been part of this formative journey of my life of learning discipline and learning, perseverance and learning, how to be an
Yes.
overcomer,
Yes.
uh, and fight some of these battles instead of always backing down from them. So I started this simply to just, you know, try and give back, and it's cheap, and I'm trying to just help people, and there are people in my room right now that we're developing cool relationships. We talk every day. We go over trades. There's not I get up at 1:30 in the morning sometimes, and I'm on there talking to these guys in London, and we're just talking about
Yeah.
trades. So I love
Yeah.
it. It's probably one of my favorite parts of my day.
Yeah. What good is anything until you share it with another? So,
Exactly. If I just sat here and did it by myself all day,
yeah.
what's the point?
So tell me about it. So you have a chat room where you show charts and people share charts and
So
something like
right now
that.
I have two things. I have a simple little course, okay? Let me
Where can people find your book?
it's on Amazon, and you can also get it at lulu.com in paperback if that's how you want to.
Okay. What's it
This is
called?
inventory trading, simply.
Inventory trading. Okay.
Yep. And so this is what I have available. I don't have all of this available right now, but what I do have is a daily levels member. Okay, so I send out an email every day with trades based on those 4-hour charts that I showed you. That are simple orders that I set limits. I set a stop, and then I usually let profit targets be personal. I don't try and tell people where to take profit because I want them to figure that out. But I tell the entries and the stops, and we work through those trades together, and we talk about them in the chat room. And if you that's the membership, and then there's a course. Like I did a really simple market structure course, just going over the stuff that I just talked about here. And then I got a lot of stuff that I want to do in the future.
Like an ebook?
Yeah, so an ebook. I'm sorry. This one is actually a video course. It's a video series. It's got 9 or 10 videos in it that I did talking about market structure.
Okay. All right. So, you could go ahead and you could tell us what is the cost for
so
any
the
of
course
these
is
things?
the course is $27, and the for the whole thing for a lifetime, and the membership is $20 a month.
2 pips a month and
Yep.
2.7 pips a month for the book. Compared to the market, that's a great deal.
Yeah, I try. Look, I'm not. This isn't how I make my living. I'm just trying to, I put a lot of work into this, so it's just an issue of if my time goes into it, I just have to be able to say, I get a little bit back, but I'm not here to make a living off of this. I want to help people learn how to trade.
Shonn, what a great mission, and I'm glad there are young guys like you. I forgot, I think you were talking about something that happened. Oh, the crude oil. You were talking about what happened in the 90s in the crude oil, and I just got this vision of you being in elementary school instead of playing dodgeball or some kind of game, that you were out there with your point and figure charts at 10 years old. So it's great to have young guys like you to be able to pick up the torch and carry it for the millennial generation that are just getting involved with this. And what do you say to people when they say, Shonn, I'd like to trade for a living. How much equity do I need to do that?
Man, that's a tough question. That depends on, number one, what you need every month.
Right.
Cut your needs down. You're not going to be, at first you're not going to be, living the lifestyle that you thought that a trader was afforded, right? It's going to be a sacrifice, and you're going to have, I put up a thing in my, just a side note, I put up a thing in my chat yesterday about, somebody was talking about trading for a living, and I put up, did you ever see the movie Glory?
About the Civil War?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Matthew Broderick, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a scene in there where they're doing rifle practice, right? And the guy with he's taking his time, and the junior officer's like, hooping and hollering, and he's hitting the bottles, and he's a crack shot, right? But then the senior officer comes in, Matthew Broderick, and he's like, this isn't the way you train. And he's standing behind him, and he starts shooting his gun right in his ear. And he's like, load, he's pushing pressure and pressure. And the guy can't even load his gun, much less hit a target. So
yeah, the difference between a demo and having money on the line.
Exactly. And the difference between trading just because you want to trade and trading to make a living is that kind of pressure. So
you know what I say? People ask me, they go, Dale, can I trade for a living with a $10,000 account? And I go, yes, if you want to live beneath an underpass here in San Diego. So,
or you got to be really good.
you know how a lot of people, they go, well, they're embarrassed, they have a day job and they trade.
Yeah.
I'm telling people, don't be embarrassed, because think of a guy like Rich Dennis, right? He trained the Turtles. They're all legends now. But Rich Dennis, besides being a great trader, had a brokerage firm called C&D Commodities, where he made for sure money just clearing business from floor traders.
Yes.
So the real smart people in the world have more than one income stream.
Exactly.
So you may want to make it the majority, eventually the majority of your income, but it's still smart to have more than one income stream in case one dries up for a little while.
I always think this is the best second job in the world, right? I mean, if I would have thought about it differently back then, and thought about the multiplication factor that I could do with trading while having a regular, I mean, you don't have to look at the charts all day. you could go in the morning, set levels, and walk away and go to work and multiply money that you don't have to touch if you have a job. So yeah,
And
man,
probably trade better because you're not watching it all the time
so
to
much
take
better,
yourself out of a trade.
so much
Right?
better. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why being on this side, it's like, okay, I get the whole, look, I wanted to trade for a living. I went through the hell to get here. And, it's kind of like, well, maybe there was some better options. Maybe using this to be your money multiplier really is a great idea.
I tell you what, Shonn, it was a great interview. I want to wish you, in case I don't talk to you personally, a great Thanksgiving, a Merry Christmas, and that pips rain down on you and your mentees and the rest of the fall and winter trading season. And let's get back together sometime early next year, partner.
Yes, sir. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having me on today, Dale. It's so much fun to talk to you.
I enjoyed it too. So everyone, this is Shonn Campbell. You can follow him on Twitter at FX_operator. And the name of your website one more time, Shonn?
www.fxinventorytrading.com.